Welcome back, Care Partners. Teresa Youngstrom here, Memory Care with Teresa Youngstrom. Hey, we have a real exciting guest for you today. I hope you've been enjoying the story times, but we've got to get this guest on, and I've actually been after her for some time. So, pretty special day. We have, let me tell you, Patti LaFleur. Let me tell you about Patti because I think she's amazing, and she's with Lorenzo's house. And if you don't know about Lorenzo's house, well, you will by the end of this podcast because it is amazing and we really got to get the word out. So remember to like and share and subscribe so that we can send this out around the world. It's just so important. So Patti is a former care partner for her mom, Linda, who had younger onset dementia and a former elementary educator for over 10 years. Patti designs and leads programs with intentionality, knowledge, and love. Patti has a master's degree in instructional leadership and is a certified dementia practitioner who has spent countless hours volunteering with people living with neurocognitive disorders and as a community educator for the Alzheimer's Association. You're going to love her as much as I do. Please welcome to our stage, Patti LaFleur. Hey,
Yay.
Patti.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for providing an opportunity to not only elevate my story and stories of so many others, but also to just shine a light on Lorenzo's house, which is such a beautiful part of the work that I get to be a part of. So,
That's right.
so honored to be
Well,
here.
we're excited to have you. And, it's just so interesting. When we're going through that journey, it's just so hard and we're trying to see light at the end of the tunnel. And every day can be more difficult or less difficult. Or, sometimes we see silver lining, sometimes we just leave in tears and it can be so hard. But then afterwards, isn't it cool where we are now? And that God certainly led me to start this business because I figured if a seasoned nurse like me had trouble figuring out how to care for her own mother, my goodness, and I had to seek out so much information and research. And so it was really just landed on me that here's your purpose, kiddo. Now what you're going to do is share this with other people who need this resource. And that's exactly what you're doing. And in a different capacity, though, because your mom, Linda, with the younger onset. Wow, you've been through some stuff.
For sure. My mom started her journey about 15 years ago. So I was in my early 20s and graduating from college and trying to, you know, develop this relationship, this adult relationship with my mom.
Right.
And then brain change enters our family. And then we have to make these decisions and try to figure out what that looks like as a family. And as my dad stepped into that role as the full time care partner for my mom, but then my dad ended up getting sick. So my mom moved in with my husband and I overnight. And like you, Teresa, right? I'm a college educated, resource hungry finder of all things.
Yep.
And I struggled with finding resources. And I definitely struggled with finding resources for our unique journey of younger onset dementia. And it wasn't until I met the founder of Lorenzo's house, Diana Shulakos, in a Zoom room that I finally was like, there's a place that unapologetically sees me and my family's journey. So it's just so challenging for care partners and then add this added layer of younger onset dementia. So
Yeah.
thank you for shining light on that. And thank you for living in your purpose. And I feel like it's such a gift that I get to be a member of a team that allows me to live in my purpose as
Yeah.
well.
We're delighted to have you on. I just think my audience needs to hear what you went through and then how this all developed. Um, and just how important Lorenzo's house was. So let me get to my questions because I have so much to ask you. Can you tell us about the founding story? Let's start at the beginning of Lorenzo's house.
Yeah. So I had this beautiful opportunity to meet Diana, our founder, in a Zoom room when I was 9 years into my journey.
Wow.
But she had been on this journey as well. Her beautiful husband, Larry, but they called him Lorenzo, was diagnosed with younger onset Alzheimer's, and her boys were 9 and 13.
Wow.
And so Diana was looking for support and resources. She was in Chicago and she couldn't find anything locally or nationally or globally.
Okay.
So, because of her entrepreneurial background, she had built a network of schools on the south side of Chicago. Diana built a place for families like mine. And Diana brought on this beautiful intern, Bree, our chief of staff, and the two of them built and developed and created this foundation of this beautiful sanctuary for families to feel seen and supported. And I had the incredible privilege a year and a half ago to join the team and now get to lead our programs. But Diana's story is one of love, of deep, deep love for her beautiful Lorenzo, and creating this house that now, honors him and allows families to connect and find each other. And it's such a gift.
It is so great. And yeah, I believe you found your purpose too. And it does help us grieve the loss when we find great purpose and something beautiful to put together in the way we can inspire other families. So I see your point. I really see your point. But I would think that there are even fewer resources for the younger onset. Is that what you
There
found?
100%. There are several
Mhm.
positive, amazing resources for families affected by dementia of any form. But even within those dementia resources, families walking with younger onset dementia are often unseen or misunderstood, right? My mom often ended up in day programs or ended up in spaces with people who were 20 to 30 years older than her.
Right.
They did not have shared interests. They did not even like the same TV or
Oh
music,
my
right?
goodness.
And
Right.
so even spaces that were dementia friendly or were spaces that were for people, she didn't feel like she belonged in those spaces. And so finding resources for the person walking with that condition are so hard. But then really trying to find resources that support the sons and daughters. As I said, Diana, our founder, her boys were 9 and 13. There was no place for them walking this journey. And I ended up in many Zoom support groups or in person support groups, even daughter support groups. And I was the youngest person by 20 or 30 years,
I'm
right?
sure.
And so it became so challenging to feel like you fit in those spaces. So I actually ended up not. I ended up not accessing support, ended up not accessing resources. I mean, until I found Lorenzo's house, I didn't know a single other young adult that was navigating this journey with a parent with younger onset dementia. I
Wow.
knew people who had walked this journey with a grandparent or with a great grandparent. And I also walked this journey with a grandparent. I always joke that I grew up in a nursing
That
home. I
probably
was
helped
leading
you.
bingo. Yeah, I was leading bingo at 9 years old, but 9-year-old Patti was like in charge of her nursing home.
Yeah.
And it did help me, right? But it wasn't the same experience. And so the power of having really that shared understanding, that shared experience of navigating these milestones, like getting married and graduating from grad school and making career decisions with other young adults who have a parent with younger onset dementia. It's so powerful to be in connection and community. And, something, Teresa, that you said too about this idea of living in our purpose, like what a gift for both of us that
Absolutely.
every day we get up and we get to make our mamas proud
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
to talk about our moms. Like, I don't know other jobs in the world where you would get to talk about your mom every day. So what a
You're
gift. And
absolutely
I get
right.
your mama's light shines, my mama's light shines,
Yes.
and it's just such a beautiful opportunity to live in our purpose and let their light continue to shine.
Absolutely. Linda and Martha, they're proud.
Oh,
Yeah.
Martha.
Yeah. Linda and Martha. Yeah, so great. And there are times when I would say my batteries would get charged again when I was caring for her. And when suddenly we'd make a connection. I tell a cute little story about one night I was getting ready to leave. I'd done my shift, the next girl was there, and um, all of a sudden, it was like I was 9 years old. And she said, just a minute, young lady." And I turned around, I said, "Yes, ma'am," because I knew she was not tracking with me, and the age I was. She said,
No.
"Do you have your toothbrush?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I do." And she said, "Pajamas?" Yes, mom, I have it. I had a Kroger bag, but the Kroger bag really had crossword puzzles my dad had pulled out of the newspaper for my husband. That really was what was in
Yeah.
the Kroger bag.
But
The
you're like, "It's right
the
here."
grocery bag, you know? And then a big smile came over her face. She thought I was going to spend the night with the girl across the street, because that
Mm,
happened all the time when I was a kid.
percent.
And,
Oh,
she smiled real big and she said, "Now you go and have a good time then." And I'm telling you what, cried all the way to the car again. Not tears of sadness, but they were tears of joy, and it was what absolutely charged my batteries up to be in it again and again. So, and I'm
funny.
sure you've got tons of stories
Yeah.
from your mom.
Yeah, those moments of connection, right? Those are the moments that carry us
Yep.
through, and those are the moments that make us laugh, and those moments that help us feel connected. As my mom started to lose her ability to recognize who I was, it as with a name or with a role, right? She still was able to recognize me through the way she reacted when I walked through the door. Like, I would walk through a door and the way my mom lit up and looked at me was so different than the way she looked at anyone else. And you can't tell me she didn't know who I
Means
was,
everything.
right? It means everything. And then her and my husband had this beautiful banter where they would call me the boss, and they were like, "Oh, here comes the warden. She's going to go tell us what to do."
Yeah.
And so they were able to create this like really incredible
And
relationship
have fun with it.
that had shifted, right? But like how beautiful that you just leaned into that moment with your mama. You did not say, "No, mom, this is not the situation." Like the power of sharing that moment and sharing these moments of connection, because it helps other people to be like, maybe I can try that, right? And
It's
so
all about joining them on the journey, even
100%.
if it's different at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And just recognizing how hard and heavy, right? Like that was so beautiful and it was a moment of connection, but there's also grief in it, right? Like your mom wasn't able to recognize you as her daughter and who you were then. And
Yeah.
my mom wasn't able to be there in so many of the spaces, especially like my wedding
Right.
day that I wanted her there so badly. But
Right.
also, so there's heaviness and heartbreak, but we have to find those little moments to just hold us through all of the heaviness.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely true. Yeah, so keep your eyes wide open. There's a plan out there. And yeah, exactly. And to see what's coming your way. But you got to seek help. And that's what this is about today. How do we seek help? We all need help. I needed help. This, nurse had been a nurse for decades, and I needed help. And now to have Lorenzo's house to provide help in a different capacity, especially for the younger onset, that rare group that gets overlooked. And those individuals get misdiagnosed on a regular basis. It can take, 5 and 8 years to get the right, because the doctors are not looking for that in your mom. Did that happen to your mom?
For sure. So my mom actually also had type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
And so they kept saying that her cognitive changes were causing her to be able to not be able to manage her diabetes, when actually the cognitive changes were causing her not to manage her diabetes.
Correct.
And so actually our endocrinologist that she had was kind of the first person to really advocate that that it wasn't her,
Mm,
that there had to be some brain change,
thankful.
because
Oh,
my mom had been able to navigate and to be able to handle her diabetes for 40 plus years
sure. She knew
at
what to
this
do.
time. She knew what to do. So it wasn't that she was like letting herself go, is
Right.
what one of her primary care physicians was like, "You're just giving up. You just don't care about your body anymore. So you're just giving up," and trying to put so much blame on her. But so
Yeah,
often,
judging
as you
her. She
brought it,
didn't need
yeah,
that.
no, and she didn't know. And, so often, the point you brought up, Teresa, so often families affected by younger onset dementia are misdiagnosed. They're diagnosed with um, depression,
Depression.
anxiety, PTSD, bipolar, adult onset
Yep.
ADHD, marital problems, all sorts of things that are so dismissive, right? That primary care physician was so dismissive of the concern that my parents were bringing in that space, right? Like they were like, we know something different. My mom was
The family knows.
totally. Yeah, and my mom knew. My mom was sad. She was withdrawing from conversation. She's like, "I don't know what's going on with me." There were many times where she's like, "I don't know why I can't calculate what kind of shot I want to give myself. Like, this is not
Oh,
normal. This is not my normal." And so we need doctors and nurses and primary care physicians and communities and healthcare systems to recognize that younger onset is here.
it's
We
here.
are a sizable niche.
Mhm.
Yes, we are a niche, but we are a sizable niche and
Yes.
much larger numbers than we even realize at this point.
Right. Oh my goodness. So good. So good. Can you tell us about the founding story? Well, I guess you kind of told us about what started Lorenzo's house, but can you tell us more about maybe just more about the unique challenges of younger onset?
Yeah,
Got
that
more?
would be,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think some of the unique challenges, as we named, is definitely the misdiagnosed, the undiagnosed. But I think one of the big pieces too is that when brain change enters a family and a family is in their 30s or 40s
Hmm.
or 50s
Hmm.
or early 60s, especially our friends that are in their 30s and 40s and early 50s, they often have kids in the home.
Yeah.
And so there is a complex brain condition that enters a home while there are also young people whose brains are developing
Yeah.
and are trying to navigate. And then there's also all the things as a family unit at that time that you're trying to navigate. So often, if there is one person that is working and that is the person that has brain change, the other member of the family, the care partner spouse or care partner partner, has to figure out, well, how are we going to pay our bills?
Right.
So I need to go back to work. And so then there becomes this, you could go from maybe dual income to a single income. You
Hmm.
could go from someone who maybe has been at home raising the family to then having to go into a career, but also being out of the career for so long. So there's also income loss, but they have to go back because they need health insurance. And
Right.
the systems in place, like Social Security disability, can be so challenging for families to access. It can be
Right.
such a long process. And delayed qualification for Medicare, delayed qualification for Medicaid, and all while navigating this complex condition and having extremely full plates. And then all of the milestones that are disrupted. For me, that showed up in my mom not being the person that she had always dreamed to be at my wedding. Yes,
Yeah.
I am so forever thankful that my mama got to be there, but she wasn't my
Oh.
mama. She didn't help me. We got to go pick out my dress after I had already picked out my dress and had already made that decision. She got to go and be there, right, when I purchased
Good
it,
for
but we
you.
didn't get to have those experiences.
Yep.
She didn't get to help set up. She wasn't there to zip up my dress because that would have been too long of a day. She
Yeah.
wasn't there for those moments
Mhm.
that we had always dreamed together of having. And when I was making decisions between where I was going to teach and what decisions I was going to make next and what decisions were my husband and I going to make about starting a family, I didn't have my mom's guidance, support, celebration, cheerleading. And instead, I was there showing up to support her and
Yeah.
to help care for her. And so these family dynamic shifts can also be such a unique challenge for younger
Oh,
families.
absolutely. Yeah, because my mom wasn't able to show up for my kids' weddings,
Mm,
but she was there for my wedding. It
yeah,
was just different. But being the nurse in the family or one of the nurses, here I am giving my mom a bed bath,
totally. For
in
sure.
my late 40s, early 50s. And
Yeah,
it was just what, of course I would do that, and thankfully it was in my wheelhouse, I can do that.
totally.
I can give her a
For
bed
sure.
bath and we can go slow,
Yeah,
and, I can do half of it. And if she gets upset, we come back and get the rest later, that was
totally.
allow that flexibility in the care plan.
Yeah.
And, but yeah,
Well,
it's just,
and what a gift that you could, right? Because of the skill set that you brought
yes.
to this journey as a daughter, is that you had that understanding. And
Yeah.
I had just this deep, deep bond with my mom. But it was different. If my dad would have needed that kind of support, like I wouldn't have been able to show up in the same way. And I think that's also okay to name, and to name if you're 17 and you're walking this journey with your dad, like might not feel comfortable giving your dad a bed bath. And the challenge is in
Absolutely.
this like struggle between feeling like I want to show up for my family and this is important and this is my dad or my mom and I care and I love, but also just reality of what it looks like for younger families. So I think it's such a gift when you can, but it's also not something to feel any sort of way if that's not in
No,
your field.
absolutely. And some of you out there in the audience, you're better at managing the finances or better at
100%.
hiring and firing caregivers and
Totally.
things like that. Things or the housekeeper or something like that. You're better at those things. And it does take a village, doing this. Because my dad is going through this now and he does have a caregiver that gives him the showers. He would not want me to do that.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, it's just it's a different kind of journey. With my mom, him being there was great because we didn't have to have help at night because she was there, he was there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they're just all different, and to impress the audience with that too, each one of the individuals that we love through this journey, they each have a different journey. And just so
Mhm.
you know, and there's so many diagnoses, more than 120 different diagnoses it could be. So keep your mind wide open and just love them along and adapt your care plan to them as they need it. And whether they need to go to, I have a friend who's moving her mom to a community today.
Yeah.
And she's
Mhm.
worried and she's stressing about that and what to do and whether, does she spend the night? Does she not spend the night? What if they tell her to leave and come back in 3 weeks, which I don't think is great, but some companies do that. And I'm like, oh, I think that's abuse, but I wouldn't do that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you should be there and help them adjust and all those things. But all these journeys are just individual. I so appreciate you sharing your
Yeah.
personal journey with your mom and
Yeah.
just the challenges and then Ju yeah, the loss, but there is definitely loss, and we do have to take time to grieve, and I think that's something we sometimes forget, and I think that's
For
something
sure.
Lorenzo's house also includes is helping people know how to move along and adjust and to grieve. You let the grieving process happen.
Yeah. Well, and I think something too is to name that the grief is occurring across the whole journey, right? So
It
for
is.
us, within our programs at Lorenzo's house, we have what are called clubs, which are our virtual support groups. So we have a
Nice.
bright brunch, which is for female care partners who are caring for a
What
spouse,
was it called again? I said something. I didn't
it's
hear.
okay. It's called Bright Brunch.
Right,
And
brunch.
it is, yeah, it's this opportunity to come together as care partner spouses or care partners who are caring for maybe your girlfriend or your husband or your boyfriend, right? It's this female
Perfect.
space. And then we have Light Lounge for male care partners. So for that care partner spouse. And so those are both two spaces. And that's something that comes up is how there is grief across the whole journey.
Mhm.
And then we also have our light clubs, which are our virtual support groups for children, teens, and young adults.
Nice.
But they start for children as young as 4. So we have a 4 to 7-year-old group, an 8 to 12-year-old group, a 13 to 17, and then 18 plus. And for the sons and daughters specifically. And we talk a lot in those spaces about the power of naming that this is anticipatory grief that I'm
Okay. Boy,
experiencing,
what a real
right?
thing.
Yeah, and you when you know and you can name it, you can process and you can develop tools and strategies and you can begin to healthy find these healthy expressions of grief. But in addition, we also recognize, as I know so deeply, is that when my mama passed, my journey did not end, it
Right.
changed. I entered this new chapter of who I am as
Mhm.
Patti and who I am. But that younger onset dementia, that dementia, it's going to stick with me forever. It's going to forever change who I am as a person.
Mhm.
And so we have what are called Shine On, which Shine On is our grief spaces. So we have a children's group, a teens group, a young adult, and then a care partner co ed space
Nice.
that is for those whose person has passed because it is such a unique journey to walk with dementia. And you often have had so many different grieving periods along the way that when the person finally passes, sometimes you have with any grief, but sometimes, especially with dementia, you have such an array of emotions, right? There's sadness and anger and complicated feelings, but there can also be moments of relief or
relief that you feel
pain.
guilty about.
Yeah, and then guilt, right? And then it becomes this whole cycle. So we have these safe spaces
Love
where
that.
people can talk about all of those feelings around people who just get it, right? Like just the power of shared understanding and shared experience that kind of unites and binds us in a really hard and heartbreaking way, but also in this beautiful way that only we understand.
Yeah. Oh gosh, so vital. All of that is so vital because as a nurse, I can tell you I was a stuffer of my emotion and I would just
Oh,
slip into nurse mode. Be the nurse.
totally.
Just be the nurse. Just be the nurse. Just
Oh,
be the nurse. And stuff,
for
stuff,
sure.
stuff. Not healthy.
And it's so easy to get into that there's so many things to do.
Yeah.
So then it's like, let me just do,
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah.
And
Check. Just can I just
like
keep checking these boxes? Oh
100%. Because
yeah.
then it's also sometimes it's hard to bring up, right? Like we often think about, and then at Lorenzo's house, we talk about this idea of like when people ask me, how's your mom? Or how's your dad when you're walking this journey? And you're like, "Oh, what do you want the real answer? Or do you want me to just say it's fine? Because if you want the real answer, floodgates down, we're going to open it
Sit
up.
down
Let's
for a
have
minute.
a real conversation. Yeah. Do you got 25 minutes and a lot of time for tears?
Oh, I get it. Tell me, you're so good at this. Tell me about dismantling that dementia stigma.
Yeah,
It's so important.
At Lorenzo's house, we recognize that people have an image in their mind of what dementia is, right? And it isn't often the 35-year-old dad who has four kids under 10.
Mm-mm.
And it's not the 41-year-old mom who is working full time and is trying to balance a household. They have this image of somebody that's older, the more typical dementias that we see. And so here at Lorenzo's house, our tagline is "We Bring Light." And part of that is because we are trying to bring connection and community. But the other part is because we're trying to raise awareness that families affected by younger onset dementia are here. And we have unique challenges and we need unique programs,
So true.
but we also need to have spaces where we are embraced and understood, and that society is more compassionate and empathetic for those affected by younger onset dementia. So we share our stories and we raise awareness and have beautiful opportunities like right now to connect with you and to tell my story, which
Mhm.
hopefully allows other people to feel theirs and tell pieces of Diana's story
Mhm.
together. And then the other piece is then we have developed a toolkit to really how do we dismantle stigma? How, when I have that moment at the grocery store and I'm 15 and I'm there with my dad, how do I empower myself by recognizing that I'm experiencing it, identifying a tool from our collective toolkit,
Yes. Yes.
responding, and then empowering myself and others. So it's really about awareness and then having the tools to really feel like I can navigate and empower myself in that moment.
How often do these support groups meet? What is the schedule like?
Yeah, so we have throughout the kind of the month, we have our match, which is our one-to-one care-to-care connection, which is just kind of one of our pillar programs. So people are connected with someone of a similar profile. So they can meet anytime, all day, all the time. People are meeting and connecting. We have our virtual club. So our light lounge is once a month, our bright brunch is once a month, but our light clubs are 3 times a month. And then our really exciting thing that's coming up in June, and we're a few weeks away, is our virtual youth summit. So that takes place once a year and it brings together young people from across the globe. This year, we're expecting over 250
Nice.
to come together in connection and community and to really advocate for dismantling stigma and a more empathetic and informed world. So, those are kind of the timelines of when we meet, and we are always welcoming people to join us. So, share Lorenzo's house with family, share Lorenzo's house with partners and allies. We are a virtual nonprofit organization that will never charge a family a dollar. So we often encourage people to donate to our mission,
Absolutely.
to volunteer with us. We are always looking for ambassadors. We have a short film that we can screen. And so we also have youth led stigma seminars. So For anyone that is interested in learning more, you can definitely visit Lorenzo's house's website. You can also subscribe for our incredible newsletter and just really stay close. We need you, and just so thankful, Teresa, for this time with you.
Oh, so valuable. We could go on and on and on.
I know.
This is so wonderful. And just I want to assure you that we will share this and send it out again and a few weeks later, and that in the show notes I will include all this information on how they can get in touch with you and these audacious goals that Lorenzo's
Yes.
house has. So
Let's
wonderful.
reach every family.
Yeah, reach every family and yeah, get rid of the stigmatism and
Yeah.
just provide this support that they need. We can get through this journey. It's a season of life. I have to remind some family members too, this is a season of life, but it's still part of your life and it's a part of who I am. It's a part of who you are. Even though I'm not, given bed baths right now or anything, it's still a huge part of me. And thank you for sharing your heart and just the goals of Lorenzo's house. I just think you guys are incredible. I couldn't wait to get you on to the podcast. And I just want everyone out there to please like, share, subscribe. We had to really share this one, you guys. Such great information. Everyone needs to hear about this. There are children out there struggling, not understanding why dad does what he does. They want to know why he does and how they can be part of the solution with him and say
Yeah.
the right things and also how they can process what they're feeling as they're going through this because it's just vital that we provide that wonderful support. Patti, thank you again for being here. It's been such an honor to have you on the show. And I look forward to talking with you again sometime soon.
Me
Yeah.
too. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Teresa.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Be sure again, like, share, subscribe. And as always, my goal is that you remember that you've got this.